Throughout a cycle of Tarkov, once it wipes, you'll notice that Tarkov has kind of these little arcs that players will experience as they play and progress through the game. We can be simple and normally just say early, mid, and end game for Tarkov, but there is room for a little more nuance with what that means, what you will spend your time with, and the kind of gear you'll be running. And we can even attach level ranges to each of these arcs so you have an idea of where you are roughly in the game. Also, knowing which arcs in Tarkov are more enjoyable to play when compared to each other, because this game has plenty of highs and lows when coming throughout an entire wipe cycle. From start to finish, there will be points that make you excited to get quests done, level up, and improve what's available to use from traders, as well as just in your stash. And there will be moments, maps, and specific quests that, no matter what you do, will feel impossible to complete. But don't worry, we've all been there. So let's go over the different stages of arcs in Tarkov's progression and get into some of the nuance as to why people may or may not enjoy them. And if you enjoyed this video and all the other ones I've made, be sure to subscribe for more videos. Early game Tarkov is something I think most of us will agree is the best time for the game. Everyone is reset back to level 1, no one has any good gear, and the fights just feel like what Tarkov has kind of always struggled to get right. It's difficult because people work at different speeds with how fast they can blow through the content of the game and unlock the better items in the game. But the fights have always been something that strikes the perfect balance of janky mess and how low levels should fight with basically no gear, modded weapons, or effective armor. They feel scrappy, messy, and everyone uses whatever tactics is at their disposal to win. It's about playing dirty and not feeling bad about it. The early game tasks can be very simple on paper, but completing them can be an entirely different story, because if everyone needs to get the pocket watch, then that location will become an insanely high traffic choke point for the foreseeable future. The maps you'll usually find yourself on if you're trying to get as many quests done as possible are usually customs and woods respectively. Obviously, not everyone wants to just quest, and that's totally fine. If there's a new map or an expansion, that'll draw attention towards those spots. I remember when Reserve was first added in .12, everyone was just running raids on that map because it was so wild and insanely profitable if you knew where to look. But Pocket Watch, Delivery from the Past, and of course Introduction to Access Jaeger are all critical early game quests that can become problematic if not completed in a timely manner. That latter spot on Woods is also a heavily trafficked area in the early game, so many people are trying to grab it and get out, which creates the opportunity for people to hang around and strike those who least expect it. The same can be said for places like the truck with the pocket watch or even something like Big Red on customs, because those locations are so important at the start of a wipe. And as quests get adjusted and changed, like the very first one going from scabs only on customs to scabs anywhere in the game, it makes sense that people will want to work at them in their own ways, whether that's a particular map or time of day where they will find the most success. But early game sadly isn't forever and averages around levels 1 to 17, maybe up to a max of level 20. But once you have all your traders at loyalty level 2, that's when the game really opens up, more quests become available, and the game begins to show some not so pretty colors. Mid-game Tarkov can be interesting, but also at the same time ridiculously frustrating. On the plus, you have hopefully all your vendors leveled up to at least level 2, if not some level 3. That's when your access to better gear and equipment becomes very apparent, and you can run around with more confidence in the items you are bringing that will help keep you alive. But it usually doesn't prepare you for what I have always referred to as simply Shoreline Arc and the Interchange Arc of Tarkov. These parts of the game can be really rough, to say the least. It initially boils down to whether or not you enjoy these maps, and I can only speak for myself, but for the longest time I actually didn't mind Shoreline up until very recently, and I've always kind of hated Interchange, but it's honestly kind of growing on me a little bit. Let's start with Shoreline. It can be a fun map in a weird, I don't see any PMCs and just kill a ton of scabs kind of way. A quiet Shoreline raid allows you for some of the most opportunity to just slay as many scabs as you can get your hands on. Streets can certainly provide a similar experience with the 80+ scav kill screenshots I've seen online, but that map is also a breeding ground for Omega Chads to run around and ruin your day, so we don't go there. As time goes on and Streets is out more and more, I suspect you will see less and less low-level players on that map because it can be so difficult. But back to Shoreline, the quests on that map, most of them are fairly reasonable, even if I do have to kill over 100 scabs during my time in the Arc of Tarkov, or if I have to wear blueberry armor for a portion of it. or if I have to use a ton of markers for a variety of vehicles on the map. I know Reserve and now Streets have a lot of marker related quests on them and just quests in general, but I think where the problem begins to stem from on Shoreline is the resort. That place is one of the Thunderdomes of Tarkov. If you run up the hill to the resort, you are either trying to quest or kill everything in there that breathes. There isn't really an in-between. Killing while going to retrieving an item from the resort comes with the territory every once in a while, but it's usually not the goal in a lot of cases. Either way, the Shoreline can either be a fair breeze to work through or an absolute slog if you get stuck on Punisher Part 4. In this wipe, you can get access to Peacekeeper's quests earlier than I'm normally used to, and because most of his quests are on that map, once you hit around level 14, you will begin to see them appear. But the Interchange arc is just a tad later than that. Interchange quests aren't available until you hit level 17 and get Ragman to level 2, which is easy, just spend money on him. And then that map really becomes available to play and progress through, because other than scathing on it, there isn't a good reason to play the map if you aren't getting quests done. And since Ragman is your main provider of interchange quests, especially in the early to mid game, it makes sense to just wait until you have to go there. Because interchange can, like Shoreline, be fun and exciting to engage with, or a complete mess if not being able to see in front of you and getting frustrated. For how simple a level interchange is when you just look at it like a blueprint of the map, it's very difficult to navigate correctly, even when you know where everything is. People can be in any store, lurking in the darkest corners of the map, or just barreling through the map and running over you to get where they need to go. I've always had the mindset that on paper, interchange is the coolest concept out of all the maps in the game, but in its implementation in the game, it misses the mark, lighting becoming the #1 issue for years now. Luckily, it has gotten better over the last few months, but the parking garage is still rough and the extractions are really sparse. You have 2 main extracts, one of which will be unavailable for you depending on which side of the map you spawn on as a PMC. And then there's the no backpack extract, which is convenient in a pitch, but that's no fun. I can't haul all my loot out. The safe door, which I've actually never used before, so that might as well not exist, and the co-op extract, which I actually have done once this wipe so far. But yeah, the quests themselves are straightforward across the map for the most part, but it's the period in the game where players might be a lower level than you and not stand a chance, or more likely feeling that everyone is ahead of you and might already be into the final arc of Tarkov. Late game Tarkov is probably the arc with the grayest area, because for some people it might start as soon as they don't feel like they need to quest anymore. It could be once they hit the soft cap of level 42, and for others it might be once they get the Kappa container. For myself personally, late game Tarkov starts at 42. That's when all your traders are maxed out and you can really begin to just do what you want in the game. You want to accrue millions to hundreds of millions of rubles? Go for it. You want to just try in PvP and get better? Great idea, you can always improve. Or you can keep going with the questing because it gives your raids purpose instead of just running around at the first sound of gunshots you hear in your raids. Although the later game Tarkov quests can be very challenging in a league of their own, and now with the addition of the useless Lightkeeper, there is something else to work towards. He still frustrates me really bad personally, enough to where I warrant his inclusion in the game's just that, useless. Although BSG did say they added some utility to his existence, but what that is, I am unsure of. But again, he is another goal for you to work for, which is lofty and requires quite the demand from a player who is intrigued enough to go after him, but at least it's gone a little easier than when he was originally added into the game. But late game Tarkov is ultimately what you make it out to be, and I feel as though there is something special in that. You do as you please, and there is no wrong answer. And to be brutally honest, that motto could be used for all these arcs in the game. There is no wrong way to play Tarkov. Hardcore, ethical, other challenges, it really doesn't matter if you add extra layers to it. The game is open enough to allow for tons of different playstyles, but if you go the traditional way, there are just some of these bumps that you will experience during your time progressing through Tarkov. Tarkov definitely has a lot of ebb and flow to it. The player base will move across it at their own speed, but you will notice some patterns as you work through it. I know calling them arcs probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's how I've always perceived the different parts of Tarkov that do exist as you progress. Most people just don't go to Shoreline or Interchange unless they have to do something there. And when you are forced to go, so are most people on that map as well. But that's cool, everyone goes through the motions together. But no matter how fast or slow you play through the quests, each arc in the game is waiting for you sooner or later. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Let me know your thoughts on the idea of arcs in Tarkov, whether you agree, what your favorite arc is in the game, and be sure to subscribe for more videos about using strange language to quantify different moments in time within the game. I hope to see you in future ones.